Rotate before you crop. Okay, let's try doing it the other way around. Let's try cropping and then rotating instead. See what happens. So I come to my crop tool, crop it down to where I want it roughly. I'm just making a point here. We'll go into this in more detail later. But okay, so I crop to there. There you go. I've removed all the pixels I didn't want. Now, if I try and rotate it, I've pressed Ctrl T or Command T if you're on a Mac for transform, and then I bring it round to where I want it, hit enter. Well, now I've got a problem. I've got these blank areas around here, so now, well, I have to crop them out. So if I crop them out again, I'm now taking out pixels I didn't want to take out in the first place, and you can see if I do that, the boy in the middle of the picture is getting very, well, cramped by the actual picture. But if I do it the other way around, I'll come to my history, and there we are, there's the original. If I rotate this first, Ctrl-T, rotate, there I come to about there, hit enter, and now if I go to crop, I've got much more pixels, much more areas around the outside to which I can crop to. So, rotate first, then crop. Okay, I've changed the position of Photoshop in this window so you can see some menu commands a bit more clearly. Now, there are three ways I can think of that you can rotate an image. One is come to Image, Image Rotation. Now, you've got various different angles here, but arbitrary means, okay, you type in an angle clockwise, counterclockwise, and there's your angle there, 10 degrees. It's not a very intuitive way of doing things, so let's find a better way. Make sure you got the right layer selected and press Command plus T or Control plus T, and you come to Free Transform. This way, you can just come to the outside of the picture. You'll find a little handle, zooming on it now, and if you drag it up and down, you can see you can rotate to wherever you want to go. Say about there, then hit enter to commit your changes, and there you go, there's it rotated. The problem with something like that is, if I'm doing this, and supposing I want to say line up this bar so that it's looking more or less horizontal, I've got this angled box there which can kind of throw my eye out a little bit. So I'll commit that, Control+Z to get rid of it. The way I prefer to do it is a two-stage process. First of all, come up to your eyedropper tool here, and then come down to a ruler. Then you click and drag out a line of the line that you want to match to. There. Then come to Image, Image Rotation, Arbitrary. See that angle, 3.93, counterclockwise? That's the angle of this ruler. Click on OK. Bang! It automatically lines up that, so that line is now horizontal. Now, here's my problem. I was making measurements based upon this fence, but that doesn't really work because that fence is kind of the wrong angle. Look, I'll show you again. If I come here and I measure the angle of the fence, there, then come to Image, Image Rotation, Arbitrary, and click there. Okay, that is horizontal now, but take a look at this line of trees in the background. It looks like there's a slight hill there. They're going slightly up. That's not true. This was flat ground. Now, what happened here was when the photograph was taken, the camera wasn't rolled either to one side or the other. What happened was the picture wasn't taken at a right angle to that fence or that line of trees behind it. You can see for yourself. If you look straight on at a brick wall, you see all the lines of bricks are all lined up horizontally. But if you go close to it and then look down the wall, you'll see all the lines go into perspective. You get various different lines all angling down towards each other the further away from you they get. That's what was happening here as well. I'm going to press Command plus Z to get rid of that. If you get that, avoid any horizontal lines which are close to the camera. Instead, go for horizontal lines which are further away from the camera, because there you'll get less of a problem with perspective lines. So I'll come here to this row of hedges, measure out a line, come to Image, image rotation, arbitrary, angle of about 1.24 degrees counterclockwise, and bang! You'll notice that the bar on this fence is still at a bit of an angle, but that's okay, I can live with that. I wanted the overall picture to be adjusted rather than to something which isn't quite right. Okay, now I've rotated, we've still got a problem. We've got these little blank areas just on the edge. Now we've got a choice. We can either use the clone stamp tool to start copying bits of the picture and gradually getting rid of these things. We'll cover that in another tutorial on another day. What we'll do instead will be to crop it. First thing about cropping. Hold down the Shift key to constrain the proportions. See, no matter wherever I put my cursor, you're still going to get the same shape rectangle. Second thing, if you come up just to the top bar, you'll see I've got various different things here called rule of thirds, grid, diagonal, triangle, blah, 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 blah. These are guides to help you when you're cropping. I want to come to rule of thirds. You see there, I've got 2 lines going vertically down, 2 lines here. They're dividing the screen up into 9 different squares. All right, 3 along, 3 down. The theory being is, if the boy's right in the center, it's a bit boring. And also, you're not really getting a sense of the background. He's kind of dominating the background. But it's a nice country scene. So, take this in a little bit. If you put the points of the focal points, the points of interest, around about a third of the way to the side of the picture or the third way up. In this case, it's his face. It's always the face, specifically the eyes, which are at the point of interest. If you put the point of interest somewhere around the third, then the picture looks just a little bit better. Now let's take a look at this. Well, now, because he's off to one side, you're getting more of a sense that you're invited to look at the background a little bit, and it's a nice background to look at. It's a country scene. Nothing wrong with it at all. If I move it along so that the boy falls, well, I've got this little structure here plus a little man there. I'm not really interested in them, but also because the boy's going from left to right, it looks like he's about to leave the picture. So, in this case, I would suggest put him off to the left a little bit. You can see where he's about to go. You can see a bit of the mane of the horse. It looks like he's sticking around just long enough for the actual photograph. So I'd be happy to crop him around there. There's also a couple of other things. That's rule of thirds. What about the golden ratio? It's like the rule of thirds, but you'll notice that the lines are crammed in a little bit towards the middle and towards the center here. The golden ratio, they've known about this at least since Renaissance times. It's just a certain proportion. That far along by that far down, or that far along by that far up, the proportions just look right to people. If you look at that, it's like a sheet of A4 paper on its side. You know, the stuff you put into the photocopier and what have you. You take a sheet of A4 paper, it just looks right. If you cut a little bit off the side of it, somehow it looks just a little bit too narrow, not quite right. That's the principle there. If I put the point of interest, i.e. the boy's face, on that line, you're getting a more natural looking pose. I'm fairly happy with that. Maybe a little bit bigger, get just a little bit more of the horse on there. Because let's face it, the sky there is a bit dull. And there. So remember, rotate first, then crop, then you're ready to go on to dark and light, plus also color balance, getting all those things right. And we'll do that in the next video. I hope you got something out of this video. If you did, maybe you consider clicking on one of the links below and check out my game called Disco Baby, which is on the iTunes Store or Android stores like Google Play. It has 3 different games in it, a memory game, a maths game for children, and a dance along with me game for toddlers to join in with. Thanks for your time.